Hello everyone, my name is David DeSantis III, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Superman movie. I saw the Superman movie about a week ago, and I'm just now getting up this review, but I was, once again, kind of like Jurassic World, super excited to see this movie. I love superhero movies, grew up watching the MCU and all of that, and how amazing it all was. And I read a ton of DC comics, so I've always been a huge fan of DC, and of course like the MCU is like my thing and growing up with that, but I've always just been waiting for the DC universe to like get it right, because they just haven't. And every time I've gone into a movie, I've been so hopeful, and sometimes I've like tried to lie to myself. Like with the first Justice League movie, I was like, no, this is a good movie, but it obviously wasn't. So I've been just waiting for so long for the DC universe to finally get something going, and I was really hopeful that Superman was going to be it, because I really enjoyed the Suicide Squad from James Gunn. I really enjoyed the Peacemaker show, even though is extremely adult, but I was really hopeful. I was a little concerned about James Gunn directing Superman. I remember when that was first announced. I do love James Gunn. I think that he's a great filmmaker. I think that he has great films and he has some not so great films. So I was worried that he was going to bring a little too much of his own style into Superman, because I don't think his style really matches with the character of Superman. So I was a little nervous, but when the original trailers came out and they played the original theme, I just got so excited. All nerves, worries went to the back. I was like, this is gonna be epic. Superman looks great. The cast looks great. I am so excited. And I was pretty excited going into it. I still had some concerns watching some of the later trailers. I was like, it looks like a lot is going on. So I was a little worried about that. And unfortunately, my worries did come to be true for me. I'll start with what I liked. I did like the direction. I think that overall, the way the camera is, portraying and showing the action and just the entire movie, I loved it. I was like, yeah, there's no shot here that I think is necessarily bad. I think the effects are great, which is kind of rare nowadays. You always kind of get at least a few shots where it's like, what on earth? But I think that the effects almost in every shot was like, this is awesome. This is great. I think that the world looks great. I think that the Daily Planet, all the costumes, and just everybody looks great. And I think that the characters are great. They're the best part of this movie by far. I think that David Corenswet does a great job as Superman. I think that he can be a great Superman, and I had no complaints with him really at all. I think that Rachel Brosnahan, I think is how you say her name, was a great Lois Lane. I think that she also played that super well. I think that Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor was also great for the first half of the movie, but the second half wasn't necessarily his fault. I'm trying to think of any other big actors, but those I think were the three that, I was looking for and was really hoping they would do well, especially Lex Luthor, because they had messed him up so bad. And I mean Lois Lane, because she wasn't really that great in the recent movies. But I think, unfortunately, it kind of takes a dive off of that. I was enjoying the first 30 minutes. I was a little like, okay, not too much is happening, but it's the first 30 minutes. I'm still on board. There's some really interesting dialogue scenes between Lois and Clark, and Lex looks like he's doing his thing and he's awesome. And so I was like, all right, they're just building right now. This is going to lead into something great. And then there's a certain point that just immediately for me starts to just dive. It goes immediately downhill. I think that there are a lot of issues, specifically with the story. I think that James Gunn really missed on this Superman story, really missed on this just movie in general. And it was just very disappointing to see him miss, because I think that he could do a really great job with these characters, but I think something that some directors fall into, like Taika Waititi, is they fall too in love with their own style, and they almost sacrifice everything else, including like characters being true to themselves, with their own style and the way they write a film and the way they direct a film. And so I think unfortunately that happened, where James Gunn's style won over, say, the characters or even the story. And so I think that was unfortunate. And part of that comes with just a lot of misplaced humor, a lot of humor that, in my opinion, just doesn't really work at all. And I think it really ruins a lot of scenes. And like, you're like almost gonna have some really good moments, and then there's these like jokes that are like, man, that don't really fit. And I'm not talking about the cheesy stuff, because the cheesy, corny stuff, like the corny Superman, that's Superman. Like, that's awesome. I loved that. I loved when Superman was being corny and there was a little bit of cheesy, because I like cheesy when it's done right. But it was just like these other extra jokes, it almost seemed, that came into it that did not go well. And I think that going into more of the story as a whole, unfortunately, they decided to focus on a lot of other people besides Superman for almost basically the entire second act of this film. And that, I think, really weighs it down, because I just remember thinking in theaters like, man, this is a Superman movie and I'm following Mr. Terrific, and it's like, what is happening here? Like, this is, the return of Superman, and we're just not watching him. So that was unfortunate to see. I feel like, weirdly enough, in a Superman movie, Superman was underused, which is extremely disappointing. I think that what maybe the most disappointing thing, and the thing that frustrated me the most, was how poor the romance was between Lois Lane and Clark Kent. I think that if you go back to the original Superman movie and even the second Superman movie, the romance in those movies are so good. Just the relationship between Clark and Lois is written so well, and I love it. It's great. And so I was hoping, like, yes. And in the first scene with them two together, I'm like, yeah, like, this really could be something. And I feel like it just fell apart after each scene. Each scene, I was like, what? Like, what is this romance? So I think that it was just an extremely poorly written romance, and that was unfortunate. And I think that Lex Luthor, like I was saying, first half of the movie, great. Like, this is Lex Luthor. He is cool. He is calm. He's calculated and doesn't care about anybody else. He's just doing what he needs to do to get his agenda solved, and he's extremely smart. It was awesome. I loved it. And then he had like a mental breakdown and started just losing his mind, which is like, again, that's not Lex Luthor. And so it was unfortunate to see that the second half of the movie, that's what happened. And to see that character of like, oh, they're doing him right, to, oh, they are doing him wrong now. So that was really unfortunate. And I think that just the finale, I have a lot of qualms with. I think that they made choices that I'm like, you didn't need to do that. You didn't need to include this. You could have made it. I feel like James Gunn really just couldn't pick a direction, unfortunately. And I think that caused a lot of problems. So I was really, really disappointed by this movie. And again, going back to the actors and the characters, I think they're great. I think they look great. I think that I was like, man, there's so many moments here where I'm like, that's great. This is the character. This is, awesome. But they were written so poorly. These actors could be great characters. Like, they can be, David Cornswell could be a great Superman, and same thing with Lois Lane and Lex Luthor, but they were written so poorly. And so it's unfortunate. It's also unfortunate to see that it's getting some great reviews. Like, it's a little mixed. So I'm like, no, don't love this movie, because this is not what we want as, the DC universe. Like, but anyways, going back to a rating, giving my reviews, I think on my unbiased rating out of 10, I would probably give it, honestly, probably a 5.5 or 6. I think that it's still an extremely well-made movie. I think it looks great. I think there are some things to like, and I would probably actually go with a 5, actually, because the story completely just dismantles this movie. So I would go with a 5, because the story lacks, but the direction, the action, the effects, just the acting, it all lands. Like, those things land. It's just the story completely wipes all of that out. And then on a personal level, I'd probably give it a 3 out of 10. I think that I was extremely disappointed and was just continuing to hope throughout the whole movie. I was like, okay, it's going to get good here. It's going to get good here. And it just didn't, and kept falling apart. So I would give it a 3 out of 10. And then my gospel application to this movie, because I believe that the original story is the gospel of Jesus Christ, and every story takes something from that. And so in this movie, I think that it's pretty clear and easy with Superman that, Superman's like the savior of Metropolis, and he's just the most powerful guy, like basically perfect in most movies and comics and stuff. So I think that, like, you could say that he resembles Jesus, but you could also just say that, like, he is trying to be he's just always trying to do good. He's always just trying to do the right thing. He's always just making the right choice. And it's like, he's looking like what it would be to like walk a Christian life, where like, yes, it's hard and sometimes you don't want to make those decisions, but he is making those decisions. Not as much in this movie, but normally with Superman. And I think that overall the theme of Superman is doing good, which I think does relate back to the original story of the gospel. So that was my application for that, and that was my review of Superman. Unfortunately, it was negative. I am excited for my next review, which will be F1, because that's going to be positive. So thank you guys for watching and listening. If you want to, you can like and subscribe. That'd be cool. And yeah, thank you guys, and I love doing this, and I appreciate you.